Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Gaming with me, Tony Mo, and we're here today to talk about Titanfall 2. Specifically to focus on the hurdles and challenges that the game is going to have to overcome as it pushes towards its release October 28th. That's the first place I want to start, actually. Let's talk about that release date, because that's a rough one. If I was some sort of a marketing, analyst, I don't think I would have ever recommended that they launched on October 28th. Now, maybe they don't have any decision. I really don't know. Maybe everyone at Respawn just wants to say, hey, guess what? Call of Duty, Battlefield, right here, man. Stick it where the sun don't shine. We're coming for you. I don't really know why they chose that release date, but it's going to be a tough one nonetheless. October 28th is a week after the launch of Battlefield 1 and a week or so before the launch of Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. Obviously, two titans when it comes to online multiplayer experiences. So that's the first big hurdle they're going to have to overcome. I mean, I can only imagine the amount of people who are going to pick up Battlefield 1 and then realize, well, I've only been playing it for a week and I'm still really enjoying it, so it looks like I'm going to hold off on Titanfall 2. I do think that is going to affect their day 1 sales numbers and probably their day 5, 6, 7, and 8 sales numbers. There's no doubt their sales are going to be affected by it. That's marketing. You know, a lot of people will try and say, oh, Titanfall 2 is different than Call of Duty and Call of Duty is different than Battlefield 1. Yeah, that's very true, but it doesn't mean that they don't share similar audiences. Like, I myself play all 3 of those games. Not to mention I also play Gears of War and Destiny. Like, I like multiplayer shooters. When you talk about multiplayer shooters, it's not just the diehards for Battlefield or the diehards for Call of Duty. There are those of us who just enjoy a shooter experience regardless of where it is, as long as it's well crafted. And we're aiming to have 3 very well-crafted ones launching within a 1-month period of each other. So that's a pretty big hurdle, and I think, like I said, from a marketing sort of, analyst standpoint, you would say that Titanfall 2 is setting itself up for failure with that launch. However, I think that would be a little bit bold and brash to say. I do think the game is doing a lot of things to help itself succeed, to make it stand out amongst that multiplayer shooter crowd, and to give players a reason to really genuinely consider spending their money on it. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're also going to talk about, obviously, the struggles that it needs to overcome in terms of being Titanfall 2. How does it improve over the first game? What are they doing to make it more satisfying? And more importantly, to build a multiplayer community that's going to stick around. That's obviously the biggest issue the first game had, considering it was multiplayer only. The game lasted maybe 6 months, maybe a little bit longer. There were a lot of things that brought it down. I, primarily like to point out the paid DLC not being the best decision for a brand new original IP. Fortunately, this time around, Respawn is going to be delivering free map DLC to us. So we'll talk about that a little bit more later. Let's first talk about what I think the game needs to do to improve itself over the first game in terms of multiplayer. Now, keep in mind, we all know the game is going to have a single player. That's wonderful. A lot of people are already saying great things about it. I can't wait to check it out. That's without a doubt going to increase the audience and potentially bring more people into the multiplayer, because there are people that may consider themselves, oh, I only play single player games, but guess what? If you already own the game and the multiplayer is right there and you just finished up the single player and you really dug it, chances are you're going to boot up the multiplayer and see what it's all about. So that's definitely going to help them. But we're going to focus primarily on the multiplayer today, because that's where the extended community is going to exist after the game's launch. Now, for me personally, that's what we're going to talk about today. My biggest issue with the first game was that it didn't give the player enough in terms of testing their skills. Now, a lot of people like to think of skill ceiling in a traditional sense. So they talk about games like Counter-Strike and Quake and, old Unreal tournaments, and they say to themselves, those games have really high skill ceilings because the shooting is really hard. Like, no aim assist, mouse and keyboard. This is the hardest thing ever. That's a really closed-minded approach. It's also a bit archaic, in my opinion. You can still have a game that has aim assist that's played on console that is extremely competitive and played all around the world. It's called Call of Duty. There's a reason Call of Duty is so successful. It's not a game about recoil control patterns like Counter-Strike. It's not a game about super crazy, twitch speed mouse aiming like Quake. Yet, it's still incredibly successful. People don't play Call of Duty just to play it to prove you wrong. They play it because they like it. Who'd have thunk that people actually play games because they enjoy them? the thing that Call of Duty mastered in terms of its multiplayer is raising the skill ceiling and making sure that the player is always tested as an individual every time they go into multiplayer by adding a slew of abilities, by giving the player more options to how they play the game and how they kill one another in multiplayer. That's a pretty big part of what makes Call of Duty, and as we all know, Vincent Zampella and a few other fine folks at Respawn helped build that original experience with Modern Warfare. So I'm hoping they can do something similar with Titanfall 2, and things are looking promising. We have a lot more stuff coming in Titanfall 2. I just got done watching some stuff from Gamescom. One of the developers there talking about, you know, number one, they are going with a progression system. Let's get this out of the way. As much as I don't think progression systems are the end-all be-all of why someone plays your game after 1 year, they're doing a pretty deep progression system. They're saying it's going to take a really long time to unlock everything. But more importantly, they keep talking about the mastery level. So giving the player all of these options and abilities like the grappling hook and making them understand that the grappling hook is awesome. You can understand the basis of what the grappling hook does, but if you really want to get good with it, if you want to link a grappling hook around the side of a building to a wall run, to a pilot kill with it, you're going to have to master it. That's the stuff I'm talking about. It doesn't have to be just about the core gunplay being challenging. They can give the player abilities and options, whether they're on foot as a pilot or inside of their Titan, that they then have to master and wrap their head around. And making sure that there's an expansive amount of those options means that the individual player has a bunch of different ways that they can build their own personal play style. That, for me, is what has driven my enjoyment inside of Call of Duty. That's why I love playing Black Ops 3. You know, I can go in there one day, I'm going to run pistol only, I'm going to get this loadout, and I'll run this perk and, this score streak. That's fun. Making those combinations and heading out into multiplayer to try and do as good as I possibly can on an individual level, that's super rewarding. That's why I love Call of Duty so much still. And I'm hoping Titanfall 2 can do something similar. Now, of course, we talk about pilots and abilities. We're also seeing, doubling the amount of Titans, essentially. I think they're talking about 6 Titans. Now, rather than just having 3 different Titans, one's got like a defensive ability, and one's got a damage ability, and one's got a speed ability, we now have Titans that actually have proper abilities. They're different Titans. There's one with a sword, there's one with a ground pound. I keep making that connection to Rainbow Six Siege. The reason Siege is so rewarding with that operator system is you always feel like, oh, I can play smoke this round, and I'll have to change up my playstyle and my tactics to be, as successful as I can be with that. It seems like they're doing something similar with the Titans, and I really like the idea of that. So, right there, everything I just said, to me, that, to me is like, they fully understand the issues the first game has, and they're doing everything they can to make sure the player has a stupid large amount of options and ways that they can, increase their own skill, test their own skill, and build that mastery. That's really important. That obviously did not exist in the first Titanfall. Really low level of Titans, very, small amount of abilities and, things for the players. There wasn't really a lot to master, The wall running itself, yeah, that was a big part of Titanfall. But for most people, that only took like a week or two. I mean, I mastered it just in my time with the beta and was like, yeah, I'm a wall-running monster now. And I've been getting back into Titanfall just recently, trying to play it on PC, and I'm already slowly getting back into it. Even though I never really played the game on PC, I primarily played on console, I'm getting back into it. So that was something that was, yeah, like here's this mastery, but it was never deep enough. So that seems to be a big theme with Titanfall 2. Every time the developers have talked about this game at Gamescom, depth, depth, depth. I'm all for that. I think that's going to help make the multiplayer way more enjoyable, and I think that's at the forefront of what they need to do to push for that extended life community, to make sure that we're playing Titanfall a year from its release. Really excited about that. Now, let's talk a little bit about the marketing and sort of the DLC side of things. One cool thing that Titanfall, that Respawn is doing with Titanfall 2 this weekend and next weekend is they're running an open tech test on the PlayStation 4 and on the Xbox One. I know it's not on PC. They've made it very abundantly clear why it's not on the PC. They have good reason for it. It's just the way it is. Nonetheless, if you own a PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, starting this Friday through the weekend, and then starting again next weekend, you have complete open access. Just go into your, your respective game store on PSN or on Xbox Live, download the tech test, and play it. Break their servers, get to level 10, and they said that they're going to do, I think, was it 2 maps and 2 modes for the first weekend, and then the second weekend they're going to add 1 more of each. So we're going to have the opportunity to play with 3 different maps and 3 different modes up to level 15 throughout the course of this tech test. Tech tests, betas, alpha tests, open tests in general are great tools, not just for the developer to obviously, you know, test the game servers and to repair issues, you know, as they push towards launch, but they're marketing tools. I've talked about this endlessly. They are obvious marketing tools. If you have the opportunity to play the game for free, you're going to take advantage of it in most cases. That's going to give you an opportunity to say, oh, this isn't really for me, or to say what they really want you to say, damn, this is awesome. I'm totally picking this up day one. Now, this is a tool that obviously isn't just resigned to Respawn. DICE is doing this with Battlefield 1, so, you know, it's a positive for them, but it's a positive for the competition as well. Nonetheless, I think it's awesome that people are going to have an opportunity before the Battlefield 1 beta at the end of this month to check out Titanfall, so that's super cool. Now, the last piece is the DLC that I mentioned. I am so happy with Respawn about this. I've been glowing about it. I've spoken about it on Twitter. As soon as Vincent Sampella made it clear on Twitter, I was just like, yes, you guys get it. You understand, man. You see the trend, and you're taking advantage of the trend. Battlefield 1 and Call of Duty Infinite Warfare will without a doubt be charging players for map DLC. That will split the community. In their case, it doesn't matter so much. They are titans. They have 8 insanely large player bases. They don't care. They just want money, 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 money. Respawn recognizes the trend that a lot of games are transitioning to, and that a lot of games are being really successful to. There's a reason people are still playing Rainbow Six. There's a reason people are still playing Halo 5 Guardians. It's because the developers are giving the players free map DLC. Anything that directly influences the game, they're giving to the player for free. In the case of Siege, operators and maps. Halo 5 has, you know, got vehicles and things being added to the Rex, you know, for Warzone, and then new multiplayer maps. They added Firefight for free. Where are they making their money? Through microtransactions. I love this system. Microtransactions that are cosmetic are completely optional. They don't affect the gameplay. Who cares if you don't have that purple skin that guy has? If you don't want to spend the money, don't spend the money. You got map DLC for free. This is exactly what Respawn is doing with Titanfall. They haven't talked about microtransactions yet. I hope that they have some sort of microtransaction because I want to support the developers still. But I love that they're making sure the community is not split. As I said, this is something they did with the first game. It definitely hurt them. They're not making that same mistake the second time around. This is going to give people massive incentive to continue to play the game's multiplayer experience. And I think it's going to help them stand out among the Call of Duties and the Battlefields. Free DLC is awesome. Let's leave it at that. And let's talk about one more feature that was revealed to us at Gamescom. So Respawn has built this sort of in-game groups system. It's almost like a subreddit, kind of like PlayStation Network's groups. Basically, I could go in there if I wanted to, day one, and I could set up a group for my YouTube channel. I could say Adventurers Inc., and then I can kind of give a description and say, you know, more casual, not super serious and competitive, come here to have fun. It's a way for players to communicate and set up matches with one another. So you could go into one of those groups that maybe you're looking for something super competitive, like you just want people who are really angry and they're just down to the wire, like 3 left, there's 4 on the right, and everybody gets really pissed at each other when you lose because you're playing it super competitive. You could find a match, like a group like that, and then you could talk with those people, and then you could matchmake, get into a party together and play the game. A lot of people are just glossing this over as like, yeah, that's a cool feature. Maybe for PC, people won't care so much, but in my opinion, when you build something into the game, it's not like an extension, it's not an app somewhere, people are going to use it. On the console side of things, things like this have worked really well. Look at the text message system inside of GTA Online. If you play GTA Online on a console, there's constantly text messages going out to every player on the server. Hey, we're about to run this deathmatch, we're about to run this race. People use that stuff. The younger generation especially, who is okay with playing with Joe Schmo who they never met until 10 seconds ago, they love using those systems. So I think it's super smart that they're building something like this into Titanfall 2's multiplayer, and on top of that, it helps remove that unexpected layer of toxicity. You know, there's always that sort of guesswork you have to play when you go to play with a group of randoms, like, I don't know what these guys are going to be like. Now, if you go into a group that clearly says, hey, you know, we don't mess around, like this isn't for super serious people, don't come here and get pissed and swear at everyone, we're here to have fun. And as long as that group has an admin that enforces that, like somebody running that group every single weekend whenever they're active, that's a great place to go to know that you can have fun regardless of your skills. You know, maybe you're 65 years old, you love playing shooters, but your hands just don't work the way they used to. You've got carpal tunnel, you spent your whole life working in a factory. You don't need some 15 or 17 or 20-year-old kid telling you suck because your hands hurt. Like, you just want to go play with people like you who are like-minded, who want to have a good time. That will hopefully be a place where you can do that. That is super smart. kudos to Respawn for implementing that into the game. I'm really excited about that. So there you have it, guys. I'm really hopeful that they can pull this one off. I really do want to be able to play Titanfall 2 a year after launch. I want to see people playing it. I want to see people making awesome, fun loadouts with their Titans and their pilots. I want to be able to make videos about that stuff. I want to, run all over walls and whip my grappling hook and make cool grappling hook montages. Like, I want this game to succeed. I really genuinely do, and I want Respawn to get the respect they deserve for making smart decisions like free DLC. Honestly, when you think about it, if you buy Battlefield 1 and you decide you really want Titanfall, rather than spending $50 on their premium pass and paying for their stupid DLC, you could just buy Titanfall for $10 more and then have another game to play that isn't going to charge you for map DLC. Think about it. And if everything comes out well and Titanfall 2 reviews well, that might be a really conscious decision to make. Thank you guys so much for watching. Feel free to leave any of your thoughts down in the comment section below, and I will see you in the next one.